Welcome to Cindy's Library. I am Cindy. Today I'm going to talk about what I read for the month of January. So, not a bad reading month at all. Although it did have one DNF, unfortunately. That was this novel Destinations, Literary Landmarks from Jane Austen's Bath to Ernest Hemingway's Key West. So this is a good book, but it wasn't what I thought it would be. This talks about tons of literary places. It's not a travel log. So I'll probably keep this because I do have aspirations for a bit of traveling in the future. But it's not one necessarily to read straight through. And it does have an index in the back as well, so I can look up ones that I'm particularly interested in if I ever go on vacation. So, not going to finish reading this one, at least not in one go like that. But I did manage to read a fair amount. Starting with Helene Hanff, the author of 84 Charing Cross Road, Duchess of Bloomsbury Street, and Q's Legacy. So, these are all rereads, but they are all wonderful. So all started with 84 Charing Cross Road, which is basically the correspondence between Helene Hanff of New York with a bookshop in London, 84 Charing Cross Road, specifically with the main buyer. Let's see. Frank. Where's his last name? Doel. Frank Doel. Very charming. Now, the Duchess of Bloomsbury Street. This is about an epic vacation she had around 5-ish years later, maybe a bit more, where she finally got to England and saw many sights that she'd only read of and had the best time. And Q's Legacy. This one is, well, the first part is where she details how she checked out books by Sir Arthur Quiller Couch from the library, wanting to learn more about literature and how to write. And he kind of became her mentor in her education. But it didn't stop there. 84 Charing Cross Road was written, then The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street. Then they actually made a film. You might call it a TV movie these days. I'm not sure. Maybe it was actually a movie. It's about the length of a movie anyway. They made a film of 84 Charing Cross Road, and they invited her over for that. So that was wonderful. Then, after that, someone made a screenplay of 84 Charing Cross Road, produced it, and she got invited back over to see that. So, those are all of her adventures that all started with Q in a way. So very appropriate that way. See, I also read A Twelfth Night. Didn't actually start this on Twelfth Night. I think I started it the next day. But This is one of Shakespeare's comedies. Very hilarious. Uh, you have a girl who dresses as a boy, mistaken identities. Of course, since this is a comedy, everything gets happily resolved at the end, except for one guy, but no one likes him, so that's okay. At least as far as the characters in the play are concerned. So, if you're looking for a fun read in Shakespeare, this is not a bad choice, and it's probably not quite as well known, so you may not have read it yet. If not, I can recommend it. I also read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I've never read this translation. This one is by Burton Raphael, but quite enjoyed it. He has an introduction where he talks a lot about both Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and about translation in general, but uh, his style is very easy. He occasionally he'll have to throw in an archaic word because there really isn't a replacement for it that would really work as well. But most of the time he sticks to vocabulary that we as moderns would appreciate without making this modern. So I really appreciated that. I enjoyed spending time with poor Sir Gawain again. If you don't know the story, this is King Arthur's court. On Christmas Day, King Arthur wants to see a marvel. Lo and behold, a huge man who is literally green comes in and says a challenge. The challenge is he wants someone to chop his head off, which Sir Gawain ends up doing, and then says in a year and a day, Sir Gawain has to find him and let uh, Sir Gawain withstand the axe's blow, and everything goes on from there. Oh, very fun. Very amusing too. You could say, it's not quite a comedy of manners in the traditional sense, but certainly had fun with the manners of the time. So let's see. I also read A Magician's Nephew and The Last Battle, both by C.S. Lewis. I already talked a bit about Narnia in a previous video. I remember I'll try and link it down below. And I read The Man in the Queue by Josephine Tay. It was good. Can't say I can call it great. The inspector, he had never really quite connected with him. That's part of the issue, I imagine. Like you connect with Poirot or Sherlock or someone like that. But he's a good detective. He does have a sixth sense and is dogged when that's going on. But it all starts when there's a queue for people to get in to see the last performance on stage of this great star before she goes to America. She's moving there. So, huge queue. And in the middle of it, lo and behold, someone's been killed. And no one knows who did it. No one seems to have seen anything. No one even knows who he is. So that is the first question our intrepid inspector has to try and figure out is who is this guy in the first place? And why might anyone want to kill him? And then figure out things from there. So the mystery itself is actually a pretty good one, I would say. But yeah. So I ended up reading half his Caracas, uh, Lord Peter Wimsey Mystery by Dorothy L. Sayers, and Harriet Vane is back. Harriet is actually, uh, she's come into a bit of money, so she's taking a bit of a vacation at a spa resort, basically, by the ocean. And she goes out walking along the beach one day, planning on walking from one town to another along there. No, not completely along the beach, but along the beach road. And she stops for lunch, dozes off, and she finds a man who has seemingly just been killed not too far away from where she was. Or at least a dead man, I should say. Uh, First suspicion of the police is that it was suicide, and that's not a bad supposition. After all, there's a razor found there too that pretty clearly did the deed. But there are some odd things that just don't add up. Why was the victim wearing gloves in the middle of summer? Why is there a ring such as you might tie a horse to in the rock where the victim was found? Why is a particular horse from a farm not too far away, a couple miles perhaps, totally afraid of that rock? So little things like that that just aren't adding up. And of course, as soon as Peter hears about all of this, which is pretty quickly, he comes down and he both wants to spend time with Harriet, keeps proposing, she keeps saying no. I don't think she's ready yet. But also for the investigation, because Lord Peter cannot resist a mystery, of course. And I also read The Missing Link, an Oxford mystery by Katherine Farrar. And she actually is the wife of Austin Farrar, and he was a very well-known Anglican priest, eventually, yeah, very well known in those circles. Also known by the Inklings, especially C.S. Lewis. They became rather close in C.S. Lewis's later years. But this is the story of a missing baby. 2-month-old Perdita Link, which is a great name for a lost baby. She goes missing from her pram, and few policemen are left in Oxford. A lot of them are working on other things elsewhere, and so Inspector Ringwood, he is called in to help, even though technically he's supposed to be on leave. And his fiancée Claire helps as well. So they go all through Oxford. They talk with gypsies. They talk with the residents of the street. They talk with Oxford dons and everyone in between. And well, can't say anything about the ending except it is a good one. At least I thought so. But very enjoyable, and It's a nice look at Oxford too because they really do talk to just about everyone. So that is great. So let's see, just making sure. I also read Becoming Michelle Obama by Michelle Obama. Listened to that on audiobook. And that's for the reading group that I am with. And can't say that I necessarily agree with everything she says in there, but I have a greater appreciation of her as a person. From everything I read in there, she's a decent human being, decent wife and mother. She actually had a growing up that sounds not that dissimilar than mine, except her family was working class instead blue collar instead of white collar. But I'm glad I read it. Gives me a greater appreciation for her. So, and I also read the essay Why I Write by George Orwell. He has several ideas about why people write. Rather interesting. Glad I read it. Anyway, that is what I read in the month of January. Hope your January reading went well too. Do you want to chat about it in the comments? That would be great. Thank you so much for stopping by. I truly appreciate it. So until next time, I hope we all stay safe and healthy. And as always, happy reading.